Hey, it's Rod Bergeron here with you today, and today we're just north of Warkworth, Ontario, and I came across this sort of idyllic little rural scene with some wheat fields, and I just thought this was really interesting to me, and I thought maybe it would be something that might be interesting to my students and other people who follow along. So here it is. This is a cool little wheat field. On the left hand side is a cornfield, and on the far back is a forest, and the sky is very beautiful today, I gotta tell you. So I'm sitting off the road a little bit, just down this little bit of a laneway, so I shouldn't have to move, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think I'm going to do this in a couple of different ways. We're going to get fully caffeinated, so go grab yourself a coffee, candy, tea, whatever it is you got to drink. And let's get on to this. So I'm going to set that down there so it won't spill. I'm going to try to do this in a couple of different ways. I'm going to try to do it in my normal way that I always do everything, with pen and watercolor, but I think I'm going to try to do one that's just watercolor, and I think I'm also going to try to do a Fauvism piece. So when we're looking at this, remember the first thing that we always want to talk about is FTE. And I know I go on about this a lot, but I believe that if you get the composition right and you have your composition correct, then everything else is gravy after that. Okay, so I'm going to take my glasses off. I don't really need them on. So remember, FTE, focus, thumbnail, edit. And when you do your thumbnails, you're making a lot of choices. You're focusing on a particular area. So I've driven for maybe 100 kilometers today, or maybe more than that, and this is the first place that I stop because this interests me, and I think this is a really interesting thing to try to put down on paper. Sort of midsummer wheat field, corn isn't really that high yet, sky is beautiful, but the way these hills roll here in Northumberland County, this is super interesting to me. I take my page and I divide it into thirds, this is my thumbnail. So I focused. I drove 100 kilometers and I'm focusing on this one area. I'm going to do a thumbnail of this. I might do 5 thumbnails of this, but I'm going to do thumbnails of this, and then I'm going to edit those. But I'm editing right from the very beginning, so my composition is going to be edited. Alright? If I think of where this cornfield is on the left hand side, it comes just almost to half of the page, and then it comes back in this direction. This little bit of a field right here that's very close to us in front of us rolls a little bit like that. There's another piece of the cornfield that sort of juts out over here, and I don't think I'm going to put that in. Over here there's a bit of a roll to where some trees are, and I'm going to do that. Right behind that comes another field, swoops across the page like this, and then you have the trees in behind that. Like this. Now for me, I'm going to do this again because I don't know that this is the way that I want this to be. I think I have too much down here. I think in the video here you'll see, I think it's a lot of foreground, but I think I want more sky in this. So this now gives us significantly more sky. This has a little bit of sky. This is the one that I'm going to go for. So how is it that we're going to transfer this So this is transcribing. This is moving from one area to another area. Okay, so remember what we're going to do here is we're going to split our page into thirds. No math involved here. We're just going to put some little marks on our page where we think 1/3 is. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is not only getting the composition right and transcribing it from one place to the next, but understanding that these are all of the decisions that an artist makes before they start painting. And when we make those decisions very, very early, we are not having to make those decisions as we paint. Our painting is just a process of putting the color onto the page to decide where it is that we're going to put things. All right. I'm going to do this in pencil this time. This is purely just going to be a watercolor painting. It's not going to have any pen on it. Okay. This gives me way more sky up here, which is what I'm going for. Okay, so once we have those decisions made on our page, we have figured out what is going to be where. We're going to leave, I'm going to change some of this right here because I'm not too keen on the way that this is jagged. So okay. All right, we're ready for paint. It's that simple. I mean, once you do the work here, you transcribe it onto here, you're ready to go to paint. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to get rid of my pencil. And I'm going to grab up my Sennelier paint set. And I don't really need these anymore, so it's okay to cover them up. So I'm going to use my little clip here, clip this on like this. All right. Put my little thing. Okay, so remember to have your little tissue on hand just in case. I'm going to do all the sky up here. I usually do the sky up here first. You'll see that there's a lot of wispy kind of little clouds up here, so I'm going to try to not cover all of this. I'm going to use a bigger 1-inch flat brush to get this sky done. And I'm going to take a significant amount of water. It's not that I'm not trying to cover it, it's just that I'm not trying to be too careful with how it is I get the water on there. So of course this is wet on wet, and we're going to take a significant amount of water over here, and we're going to pick up some blue, Sennelier blue, put this into this. You'll see it's a great color for skies, especially when you're working wet on wet. Get a little bit more of that in there. And I'm going to put this along the side here. And I'm going to put this along the side here. Get a significant amount of paint on there. And the process that I'm using is I have the brush full of paint. I'm tapping it into the water that's already on the page just to get the paint off the brush and onto the page. Okay. Now I'm going to take all of this, I'll take this off, set this down here. I'm going to set this down here, and I'm going to let the water run from left to right. let's leave that for a while now. So I think I want to do this this green area down here. I want to do something that's not connected to this, because I don't want the color to run from here into the blue, and I don't want the blue to run into my green there. So I'm going to work on this lighter green area near the front here. Alright, that's coming right along. I'm going to put this onto this area of trees right here. I'm challenging myself here today. I'm using this big honking brush just to see if I can. It's worked out alright for me so far. Again, this would be wet on dry. I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm going to let this blue dry along here before we ever touch this onto there. So I have some more green areas along here that I want to touch a couple of more times, sort of like that. And that's about all that I'm going to do right this minute. I'm going to let a lot of this dry. I'm going to let it run into whatever it is that it's going to run into, and then we'll come back. Okay, so this is really well dried up now. I love what happened to the sky here. This sky is awesome. This is still a little bit wet up here, but all this is dry. So now I can put my paint on in these places and not worry about it running into the blue sky. So I have some brown here. I think I'm going to start with that. And I'm just going to put some water into this brown. Get that brown going a little bit there. Okay, so I'm a big believer in testing colors. So I'm going to test it on here, and you'll see that's just a light brown wash. That's not really what it is that we're going for, but it's a good place to start. Put a little drop of brown into this, just to give it a little bit more pigment in that. Okay, see, that's not what we're going for either. So what we are going for is a much yellower version of that. So I'm going to just pick up some yellow. Sennelier yellow, put that into it. You see that changed it drastically, okay, to that. I say, because it's going to dry a little bit lighter than that, that's probably the color. But I'm going to make it even a little bit lighter yellow than that. Wow, that's a golden color for sure. That's the color I'm going for right there. So I'm going to take this. This is going to be wet on dry, wet paint on a dry page. Look at that. That's exactly the color that I was going for too. I'm going to go around this little bit of green here. Right along there. I'm using the flat of the brush to delineate where the end of my wheat field is going to be. Over this way. Something to keep in mind is that the color that's on the page is going to dry significantly lighter than the way it looks when you're putting the paint on the page. And that's true pretty much for all watercolor paint. You're going to see that it's almost always going to dry lighter. So one of the things that we have to do, I guess the last thing that we have to do for this piece is do this. So when you look at this image, you'll see that it's very, very dark. So I'm going to use this super dark green that I have over here, and I'm going to mix some water up into it. One of the things that, so it started to dry out a little bit, but not a lot. I mean, it started to dry out, but it's not dry. So remember to always have your tissue with you, because now that we're getting near the end of this is typically for me when I start to have a lot of problems. It's when you're almost finished it. So I'm going to be very careful about how it is that I wet this area. Okay, so now that we have that wet, we can introduce this wet paint into that. So I'm going to pick this paint up. And you'll see the magic of watercolor paint is that is only going to go into the area that we've wet. Paint right up to the line that I've drawn on there. But to make some purple, we're going to pick up some clean water on this brush, and we're going to mix it into this bit of muck right here. And we're going to pick up some Sennelier red. We're going to mix it up fairly intensely, and you'll see on the page here, the red, it's going to turn out like that. And then we're going to pick up some more water, put it over here. We're going to pick up a little bit of blue. And you're going to see this blue is very, very dark blue right now. But I'm going to introduce that blue into this red. And we're going to get that very, very dark purpley color. Alright, I'm going to pick up actually a little bit more red here, put that into this. Remember, this is all wet. I'm going to try that. Yeah, that's very good. So I'm going to go back here. So this has got purple on it right now, okay? Okay. See how that color is all bleeding into that? Alright, so we're going to take our brush, we're going to set our brush aside, we're going to take our so this little bit of red down here is really, really, really complementing the green that's on here. This golden, yellowy, brownish color is really going really super well with our blue up here. You can keep moving this around till you get it to where it is that you want it to be. There's a couple of areas right here that I want to touch the sky, so I'm just going to fix that up like that. Alright, now that's it. Sign it and you're done. If you learned anything from this, please click liked. And I love to hear from everybody, so if you got a question or a comment, please leave it in the comment section. If you're currently a subscriber, I thank you very much. And if you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate everybody that checks me out. So we'll see you again next time. Okay, so let's get back at this. This has all turned out really how it is that I was thinking about it, and that's a great thing for an artist to be able to say, is that it's turning out the way that I thought about it. This wheat field is the color that I was thinking about it. This close area here, the sky, it's all, you know, very closely related to the way that I see it and the way that I think about it. And that's what's important for me. I don't try to paint things exactly the way it is that they exist in the world. I try to paint things the way that I think about them.